So today we have two topics today. Luke Ertzberger from the he's an AI solutions architect with the Office of AI and Policy, is going to be presenting on a solution that uses AI to convert PDFs into HTML. And then after that, I thought we could talk a little bit about whatever we did for GAAD Day, Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which was last Thursday, to just open it up to everyone and just share what did you attend, what did you learn, what did you read, what did you watch. But we'll start off with Luke's presentation. So, and let me just give you a little bit more insight into why this is so important to our group. So the state, our state, every government loves to create PDFs. And so we publish tons and tons of PDFs and put them online. Probably, my guess is probably because it's just easy for someone to make a Word document. It's easier to make a Word document than it is a web page, is kind of what people think. And so then to get your Word document out on the web, the PDF format was converted. The portable document format was created by Adobe. And it's a way that you can publish your text online. But PDFs are great for printing. I feel like that's the main purpose for them, is for printing. You can download them, you can share them on the web, you can put your content in there, but the layout is fixed. And so for people who like to be able to interact and zoom and reflow and change colors, there's limitations with PDF. And as we know, people with disabilities like to be able to zoom in and reflow and consume the web content that way. So we have this problem in our state of thousands, maybe even in the millions numbers of PDFs. We have this Title II ADA deadline, which was moved to next year in April. And so it gives us a little bit more breathing room to try to solve this massive problem we have. But remediating a PDF is really, really hard work. Like, it's very tedious if you've ever tried it. And so the AI team said, hey, maybe we can use AI to solve this problem or to get us closer to a solution. And so that's what Luke's going to be talking about today. So Luke, I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Let me get this. My camera wants to be difficult today. All right, let me share my screen here. Can everyone see the slides?
Yep, we got it. Thank you, Luke.
Awesome. Cool. So just wanted to talk briefly about a little bit about how we can be using AI to make content accessible, very briefly, more broadly, and then dive into kind of those two specific PDF tools, hopefully do some demos for you all as well. So as John mentioned, I'm an AI solutions architect in NCDIT's Office of AI and Policy. We work on using AI to find innovative solutions to problems that agencies and citizens face. I think this kind of goes without saying, because all of you are in this meeting, you get why it matters. But even though the DOJ deadline was extended by a year, it doesn't necessarily change the need to remediate or convert legacy PDFs. Manual remediation of PDFs is an extremely difficult and time-consuming process. And as well as at the scale, we really don't have a way to do that either cost effectively or time effectively. And so that's kind of where we started looking at how could we use AI to help deal with the sheer volume of this scale. And we'll get into this a little bit later on, but kind of looking at how can we use AI for the bulk of the busy work and still leave out the judgment side of it, because that's something that humans should be doing there. So briefly, some of the existing tooling, and John and Amy are probably going to be much more familiar with this than I am, but we have things like DubBot set up for site-wide scanning. Tools like Adobe Acrobat Pro have a built-in accessibility checker, consultations or testing services, courses on LinkedIn Learning, but none of that actually helps to kind of actually convert or remediate the PDF. That's still the bulk of the work. And so that's where the two new tools that are being developed that I'll be demoing today will come in. So briefly, just to take a step back, how can we use AI to help make content more accessible? And I think that starts with what AI won't do. Unfortunately, and as much as I think we all wish there is not a way to push a button, automate everything with AI, and all of a sudden you're fully compliant. Automated tools will catch a portion of accessibility issues, will help get you a long way in the right direction, but won't get you all the way there. AI gets a lot of things like reading order, alt text, and structure mostly right. Doesn't mean always right. It's still AI. It still makes mistakes. It still hallucinates. It still changes output if you run the same thing through multiple times. So you still have to check the output, kind of verify that everything's what you're looking for. It could produce alt text that's there, but not necessarily helpful. And so that's where, again, just an example of what you'd have to judge the meaning for, or it can also tend to ramble on the opposite side of that and do alt text that's far too long. You can use things like forms, complex tables, and image-heavy documents that might need human attention. And it's a process, not just simply click a one-time button. So to kind of dive into some cases where it would be helpful, though, these are all things that you could start doing today just with publicly available generative AI tools such as ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, any of the major LLMs out there today. I'm not going to be demoing for this part any specific tool and have no affiliation to any of them. I'm just demoing in general what's possible with things like that. So to start with, let me share my screen and we'll do an example with. All right, so let's say that I have this lovely image right here that I want to upload to my website or use in a Word document or wherever I may need to use it. And I would paste it in there, and then I might look at this for a bit, and then let's say that I don't necessarily have the time to write all text for it, or where this would really become helpful is at scale if we could do this with like 10 images. But for now, just to demo with one, I can upload it to a publicly available Gen AI tool, say write a short alt text for this image, and the image is uploading right now, and then it analyzes the image and then writes what appears to be a pretty solid alt text: sunlight shining through tall bare trees for the sunrise, casting long shadows across a frosty landscape. So again, it was able to do that very quickly compared to where I might have had to think through how to write it out. But where that would really become useful is in bulk, being able to do that at scale. Another example where AI might be useful in content editing, and again, I'll go to a different one just because it's not tool specific, is if I had some text. That this is full of kind of acronyms and jargon and really, really complex language. This is about as far from accessible as you're going to get in terms of text here. And so I could take this complicated paragraph, copy it, and then use a tool to say, write this in sixth grade reading level and without anything confusing. Paste in my really long text here, and then AI will take kind of that very long, complicated paragraph, break it down into how it works today, gives me a definition of what transformers are, etc., and then actually gives me some bullet points here, because again, it was a giant paragraph, which is not really accessible or usable. and then breaks down making AI smaller and faster. So that's just a couple examples, but as you might imagine, there's several uses where you would be able to use the AI that you already have available to you today in order to make things like that faster. So let me share my PowerPoint again. All right. So that was just a couple examples, but some other things you could do would be long document summarization. If you have a 10-page PDF and you just want the general content of it up on a website, just upload that to a publicly available Gen AI tool. Ask it to summarize it for you. It's pretty good at summaries. You could ask it, what reading level is this? It could give you that analysis. There are several publicly available tools out there that can generate captions or transcripts for video and audio for you to save some time there. I know, for instance, the Adobe's Creative Cloud has some built in, several other tools, though, no specific tool for that. And then you could also upload maybe like a compilation of multiple Word documents and say, hey, put the meaning of all of this together into one HTML for me. All of that would be doable with tools that are already out there today. So some ideas of what you can do today is everything just shown. Identify if you're a state agency, to identify a digital accessibility coordinator to get beta access to what we're about to show. Go ahead and get a grasp of your PDFs. Sign up to DevBot if you're not already, and if you're able to move over to Digital Commons, then you'll be able to access the two tools we're about to show. So there is kind of quick overview of what we can do today. Let's go ahead and dive into the two tools, though, that John mentioned. And the first will be the PDF to HTML converter. Kind of what is it, how we can use it, and the demo. So what the PDF to HTML converter is we kind of identified, as John mentioned, a problem that there are hundreds of thousands of static, inaccessible PDFs uploaded onto state agency websites and right now. And so we wanted to see how can we turn those into WCAG aligned HTML web pages, because not only is that going to make it easier to maintain accessibility because HTML files are much easier to tag, but also it's going to make it such that it is scalable for mobile devices. It is easier to search and index because the text is all there. It's several advantages to having HTML pages. And so the output of this tool is that we take the PDF that's inside Digital Commons and output a simplified HTML markdown with clean semantic structure, repositioned images, restored headings, proper reading order, etc. And we do that using AI because it's not programmatic just to take a PDF and turn it into HTML, because you have to kind of understand the meaning of that. And so that would be something where AI is really going to be able to shine. The tool will be free to all agencies with existing content on Digital Commons. And then there'll also be, if you can reach out to us if you have a website that's not hosted on Digital Commons, and we can work with you. We'll be able to return the HTML. We wouldn't be able to have quite as seamless of an integration as we'll demo today. And Digital Commons websites will be prioritized in terms of order. But if you are on a non-Digital Commons website, feel free to reach out and we can see what we can do in terms of getting the PDFs converted. To dive into a little bit of the how it works, the source PDF is inside of Digital Commons, or if sent to us if you're not on a Digital Commons website. And then using the Gemini 3.1 Pro model, we developed this solution in conjunction with Google and Google partner Nerdery. It'll use the PDF that's there and then run that through a large language model, Gemini, to kind of extract what is the content here. So for instance, if there's 3 panels of text on a PDF, if there's multiple colors, if there's things like that, it'll extract out the meaning from it, and then is able to take it and do programmatic modifications after we get the outputted content from the LLM. So things like ensuring the correct heading levels. If it's a long document, AI has what's called a context window, which is just like how long it can output. So we do it multiple times and then stitch those together. So on and so forth. We apply the digital commons style sheet when it's imported, things like that. The auditor is just then another AI running on top of that to see, okay, compared to the original PDF, how well did this do? So it looks at the PDF, it looks at the PDF and the HTML by comparing an image of each of them and comparing the actual content of each of them and saying, is this the same? Were there accessibility issues encountered? Things like that. And then that conversion will show inside of the PDF conversion dashboard inside of Digital Commons, which can then be converted to a live web page. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and jump over to showing a live demo of this. So this is the one example of what this will look like. So you'll see all of your PDFs that are uploaded to the site right here. You can see a quick overview of what's been converted and what hasn't. And I apologize, I have a big monitor. Let me zoom in some. And you can go on a PDF by PDF basis and have this useful comparison tool right here. So I can go, so for instance, you can see all of your PDFs right here, jump between pages, but then I can compare the original PDF to what it will look like inside of Digital Commons. And so, for instance, in this case, it was a PDF with agenda items and then presenter. And so you can come over here and see that it was able to correctly extract a title from here, gave a label for the table of meeting agenda items and presenters. Now you can see that that's not exact text would not be found in the PDF, but that's what was needed in order to convert it over into HTML in order to correctly identify what this HTML table is. So you can see that it did the call to order, the agenda item, and who the presenter is. And this is a standard Digital Commons table with all of the accessibility features there. And you can see that it was able to pretty much correctly extract this. Now, because this is still in beta and isn't fully completed yet, it doesn't have the audit report on it right now, but let me show you some screenshots of what the audit report on this will look like. So there we go. This is a screenshot of what the audit report looks like on a PDF, where it gives a score and then gives kind of some analysis of what it will look like. Again, just trying to say, hey, here's some areas you might want to consider. It'll also give you, particularly during the beta, but then also after, a chance to leave feedback on it to kind of see what you may want to do or not. If there was anything incorrectly identified inside the audit report, it'll give you a list of issues, and then you can go review those in the HTML output before publishing it. So that's just kind of a quick overview of the tool. Please drop any questions in the chat if you've got them, and I'll try to address those at the end. But hopefully that gives you an idea of it. We're currently entering a beta test for agencies with a digital accessibility coordinator. We'll be working with them to convert a few of your agency's top PDFs into HTML in order for you to go in and kind of preview what it looks like. So that's
Luke,
the PDF. Sorry, go ahead.
Luke, thank you. Can you talk a little bit about why it looks different? Why the converted page looks different from the PDF?
Absolutely. It's a great question. So what we're going for here is not visual identicalness, but instead what we're going for is that the meaning and the content is correctly translated into HTML web pages. So for instance, with this one, you notice some things like technically the words meeting agenda items and presenters aren't there. You notice that the blue coloring is different, right? So there's several things that have changed in the conversion into a web page. but that's because we're trying to make it match your existing Digital Commons web page style, because PDFs have a lot of content embedded into them in terms of reading order and colors and fonts and things like that. We are not going for, in this tool, an exact visual match of that, because in some ways that would just be taking something that's inaccessible and putting it into another inaccessible format. Instead, our goal with this tool is to make it something that is usable in terms of being able to get the meaning and content out of a PDF and then create a similar web page that conveys that same meaning and content in a web page form. It's not going to look exactly the same. It's not going to have it the exact same design, things like that. Instead, our goal was to create something that if the content creator of the PDF were to go make a web page instead of a PDF, what would that web page in Digital Commons look like? And that was our goal with the AI conversion.
I love that answer. Angela has her hand up.
Oh, yes, thank you. So let's say if you have a PDF that is perhaps 50 pages long with bookmarks attached to it. So when you run this tool on that PDF, does it convert those bookmarks into table of content to allow people to navigate up and down the document? Because a 50-page document is going to be one very long page.
Absolutely. That is a great question. And that's something that we're currently working through in the beta test, is how to handle longer documents and tables of contents. Because PDFs do tend to be a little bit more tricky to work with, we right now don't capture bookmarks from them, but something that we are working through is how we can automate creating a table of contents at the top. So sorry, I jumped ahead. But in your default on this page in Digital Commons, we'll create the correct header levels for places where those bookmarks would be, just based on content meaning, and then would give you the chance to be able to jump around in a page for places like that. But that's a great question.
Thank you.
And Luke, I have another question. I think or probably people would want to know. And I'll get to your question afterward. Maybe can you talk a little about like what are some of the, without getting too technical for our audience here, what are some of the challenges that you hit? Like what was the AI doing that you had to, say, no, we don't want you to do that, do it this way. Just some of the challenges that you had to overcome.
Absolutely. It's a great question. So we've been working on this solution for the last few months in conjunction with, in partnership with Google, Nerdery, the digital solutions team here at DIT, and our office to kind of work through several issues of when we started. AI does tend to it's generative AI and it likes to generate. And so it's always going to provide an output, whether that's what we're looking for or not. And so based on that, we had some things that we had to encounter, such as images was a huge one that we had to deal with. This example doesn't show it, but there's several documents that we can pull an image in from, and I'll find one of those and demo it here in a moment. But it's able to correctly figure out where is the image from that, and then be able to, let me share my screen. Okay, inside of the PDF, this blue icon right here is an image. We need to extract just that part and not the text around it, because the text around it is shown in the HTML. And so we want to extract just that. Another small thing is things like footers on a page. That makes no sense when you're in HTML to have a footer just randomly interrupting your text content. And so we were able to if you notice, there's footers here with page numbers, as well as the header here, and that was not extracted over into the PDF. Now, you'll notice with this PDF, probably something pretty important, that this is kind of pointless, because this is a form that's printed off and filled out. that's not going to do you much good as an HTML web page. So that's something that this tool does have a limitation of, is that it's not going to be very useful for your forms that need to be printed off and filled. Those probably would need to stay PDFs, so should be manually remediated. But this is a pretty good example of how images go over. And then another thing that we had to work through is trying to figure out what's a title and what's not. So in a untagged PDF, especially a scanned one, there's no tagging to say that there is good or bad. And so we were able to kind of use AI to say, hey, based on if a human were reading this, what would make sense as an H1? What would make sense as a H2? And so you can see it was able to kind of correctly extract that from the document, able to correctly extract when there should be italics, things like that. So that was some of the challenges we faced.
Yeah, I mean, so the AI it's literally, it's like looking at the page. It's not really digging through tags and code.
No.
Okay, cool.
So we actually feed it an image of the PDF page in addition to attaching the PDF to the large language model.
Awesome. Okay, Paul, you got a question?
Yeah, hey, Luke, question for you. As you converted it from a PDF to web page, what did it do as far as the size of the document? Was it kind of equivalent still, or did you notice anything?
So size of the document normally goes significantly down, especially for scanned documents. That's a huge one because it's storing every page as an image when it really doesn't need to be. It's just text. And so overall, the size goes down. The only exception to that is if it's a super image heavy document, we extract each image and save it as an image inside of your media. And that's actually something I didn't touch on, so I apologize. But when you convert the document and make it live on your web page, it will extract any of these images that are in the HTML, like this one right here, save it to your media library, and then pull that in like an image like it normally would inside of Digital Commons for those familiar with it. So if it's an image heavy document, we can pull the images out and save them into media library. So there it tends to be a little bit more equivalent in terms of size. I personally have not seen one that got bigger. I'm not going to say it couldn't happen, but it's kind of hard to imagine since a PDF contains so much more extraneous data compared to a pure markdown HTML. The HTML files themselves are nothing. The images are where you get any form of size.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. I saw a question in the chat regarding table accessibility. It's a great question, April. We kind of try to handle it best we can according to the original source PDF. A lot of times the original table format in the PDF is not accessible because it does things like multiple subheadings within the table, categorizing it in terms of merging cells, a few things that kind of mess up the readability of the table in terms of from an accessibility standpoint. And so we try to convert that into an accessible table best as possible, but that's where that audit comes in and being able to find issues with it for things like that. And then, yeah, empty cells, again, is possible to be problematic. But again, if we're able to convert it into such that it's not there, we can. But our goal is to convert the PDF into HTML. So if there are empty cells in the PDF, then there will be in the HTML as well, likely. Another question I saw was, will the AI learn from less than ideal audit results? So that's exactly what we're planning to do with the beta test, or I see John already answered that, sorry. So yeah, we're taking the beta test and using it to improve the tool. I will note though, what this is not is you submit your feedback and then AI just goes and autonomously makes itself better. Our team will manually review the feedback, try to extract trends and overall sentiment from that, and then manually go make improvements from there. We don't want to just, you can't weight the tool by just like providing a bunch of feedback and then it accidentally learning something incorrect from that. We're still manually reviewing all feedback before we make any changes to it.
There's one more question here from Regina about when it generates alt text. Let's see, when it converts the images to alt text, does it add correct alt text? I mean, I can partially answer some of that, Luke. And I
Sure.
mean, like, I think, an AI is going to do the best it can, but it might not it's probably going to lean toward providing way too much information in alt text. It's going to describe trees in the background and things, and if that stuff's not relevant, you're not really providing a quick experience for screen reader users. So I would say just, when you can, look at the alt text and evaluate, is this good? Is this concise? Is this getting the point across of whatever the meaning of this image is?
Absolutely. And that's something we are working on, is to get it down to the best alt text possible, and that's what this beta test will help improve. So feedback there is always helpful, but a kind of check, but hopefully it's headed in the right direction. You'll notice back when I did the alt text onto a publicly available Gen AI tool, I put short alt text because, again, AI kind of has a tendency to ramble. So finding that the tool is actually saving time, great question. I'm not going to be able to speak to this one super directly just because kind of in my day-to-day I don't remediate documents, but I will add that overall, the time savings seem to be very significant just based on the immense amount of time required to remediate a PDF, just because of the manual page-by-page work to do that. Whereas here, hopefully, you're able to do it much quicker into a web page, as well as have an audit kind of highlighting some of the areas where you might need to do it, where you might need to check. Something that we have seen is, like, if you have the original source document and you could just export it into an accessible format, like for instance a Word document where you already have everything there, that might be able to do that. But remediating a PDF from everyone that we've talked to is a very painful process and takes an immense amount of time, or an immense amount of money if you're contracting that out. And so this tool has been significantly faster than remediating a PDF, but I couldn't necessarily say it's faster than this if you have the source. All right. There are no other questions about that. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the second tool to demo today, which is, there we go, the PDF upload auto checker. So this is kind of a tool that what you just saw is a conversion, right? It's helpful for, I have 100,000 PDFs on my website. I've got to get them accessible. What that doesn't help you with is forward looking, right? So that tool is a lot more helpful for catching up to now, and it'll be useful in the future tool too, as we kind of dive in here. But what are we going to do about the future? And so that's where our office came up with the idea of a PDF upload auto checker. And so this will be built into Digital Commons, such that every PDF that you upload by a content author is scanned for accessibility issues before it's published. So you can get a report right there that can also be exported into a PDF. What's wrong, where, the severity, and what to do about it. This will be built into Digital Commons, like I mentioned. And so, as you'll see in the demo in a minute here, but right now, kind of PDFs just get uploaded and then nothing happens. And so you're kind of self-compounding the problem. What this aims to do is kind of help make sure that everything we're uploading moving forward remains accessible by what happens is you upload a PDF, it gets a programmatic check run on it, AI, and on top of that programmatic check, there are several tools out there right now that can do a programmatic check on your PDF, just saying, is it tagged, is it things like that. What we added on top of that is using AI to look at over the structure of the PDF itself and visually compare the PDF to identify any issues. So some things like the traditional check, it will check for tagged or not tagged, if it has mark info, language, title, font embedding, alt text exists on all the images. But again, programmatically, you can't do anything else than is it there? Is the heading structure correct in terms of H1, H2, H3, etc.? What it also does on a visual check using AI. So it can check for things like, is this a scanned document? What's the visual reading order? Is that correctly tagged in it? What's the alt text quality? What's color contrast? Color is sole indicator comparisons, and images of text, flashing content. A lot of things that a traditional check wouldn't necessarily be able to do. So with that being said, let me share my screen. All right, so again, this is not live yet, but just wanted to kind of show an early preview of it. So please know things are not only subject to change, but likely to change as we go through the feedback process. But this is just a very early demo of what this could look like. So I'm just inside of Digital Commons here, normal website for DIT. I'm just going to go to Add Media, Add Document. This is the exact process I would follow traditionally if I wanted to upload a PDF. I can give it a name here, and then I'll choose my document right here, which for this example, let's go ahead and select this. This is a scanned in PDF where you can see we've got several complicated issues here, but we're just going to go ahead and upload it anyway, see what happens. Immediately, what's going to happen is it's going to start checking the PDF accessibility on the background. It gives you some helpful accessibility tips right here while it's processing. And this does run a little slower just because it's locally on my computer until we go live. So it'll be a little faster than this. But what it's doing is it checked all the programmatic things, and then it checked using AI. Gave us a terrible score of 29, so that we've passed 2 checks, failed 5, and gave 3 warnings. Gave a really nice little summary up here saying that it's a very poor posture because it's untagged, scanned image, having no text layer, language definition, and structural metadata, basically rendering it completely inaccessible. It was also able to correctly identify that it was a scanned document with no text layer. And then you can actually go through here and see each of the checks that it failed, as well as which guidance that it failed. You can click right here if you want to read more about that guidance and why it failed it on WCAG 2.1. But then you can see that it was able to detect things like, hey, this is a scanned document. It has a full letter of text, but the text layer is empty. And so this was something that you couldn't necessarily find with a programmatic check because let's say it was a full page image that was supposed to be that way. You couldn't just check, is the whole page an image? So this is something where AI really starts to shine. Did give me some positive findings down here that it's high contrast, but that's about it. It gives me a very poor score. So let's just say I'm like, oh no, I'm good as a PDF. And it's going to give me a heads up saying, hey, you probably don't want to do that. It's a very poor accessibility score. Why that matters from a legal perspective and a user impact perspective, and say, hey, you should probably convert that into an HTML. So, okay. So right here, I can just click to convert it to an HTML, and that will use the workflow that I just demoed a moment ago to convert this PDF into an accessible HTML web page. I could also cancel the upload, go back, remediate my PDF, and do it. Or let's say I had someone send me this PDF, and it's not my content. And I'm like, hey, here's all the issues with it. I'm just going to download this report, and then this generates an accessible PDF that we can then send over to them to say, hey, here's all of the issues with your PDF. Could you go fix these accessibility issues so that we can upload it and publish it? That's an example with this scanned in document. Let's do something where it's not scanned in, though. This document actually looks pretty decent, right? I've got a heading. You can see I can select text. Pretty decent 3-page document here, right? Pretty simple. All right, let's open that and see what happens. So again, this will be faster in production, but it's going to go through, scan, and not only is it going to check for, is it a scanned document like before, but now we're going to check for, all right, it's not a scanned document. So what we actually do is dive into the PDF tags and feed the tags of the PDF, if there are any, to AI and say, all right, how did it do? So we got a score of 31, a little bit better. This is one that visually would easily pass because it looks fine, but when you start diving into it, it's got several issues. And so you can see our summary said that it's critical failures with tagging, language, and document structure that make it essentially inaccessible. Again, I can view an exact finding of each one, what the issue with it is, and which guidance that ties to. And then this is where, again, AI starts to find things that a programmatic check couldn't. So for instance, sample PDF and created for testing PDF object at the top are styled as a very prominent, and I'm sorry, I forgot I have a large monitor. Let me zoom in some. The sample text for sample PDF and created for PDF object are styled as a prominent title and subheading, which it was correct, but they don't have those tags associated with them. So again, that's something that a traditional programmatic check or even something like Adobe Acrobat checker probably wouldn't find, whereas AI is able to see, hey, that looks like a title, you need to tag it like a title. And then it was actually, when I was developing the tool, I actually didn't realize it would catch something like this until it started doing it, and it was very helpful. So if you read, I can zoom in some, but if you read this PDF text right here, it says, I digress, here's some Latin, and then goes into Latin filler text. Doesn't seem like an issue to you or I, right? Except that the document contains starts in English at the top, and then it goes into Latin. Well, there's no semantic marking in the PDF for that, which means that a screen reader would try to read the Latin text using the English pronunciation rules. So it needs to wrap the Latin text in a span tag and apply the language attribute of Latin in order to use the correct screen reader pronunciation. You can see we got a little bit more positive findings here, meaning the visual reading order is very simple, good color contrast is there, etc. But again, if I go to publish, it's going to give me an issue. Finally, I'll do an example of kind of a good PDF, which even though it looks extremely complicated, this has been fully remediated and should pass. Hopefully it does, and I don't demo this and it doesn't, but if so, it's in development. But again, even though it's the sample PDF I showed a moment ago looked accessible, it looked easy, you could copy the text out of it, but obviously had a number of issues. This one looks extremely complicated, but again, is correctly tagged. So you can see it got a pretty good score of an 80. It did say that the day 1 and day 2 probably should be subheaders, but kind of something to think about. You don't necessarily have to do that. And then it got a ton of passes in here, right? And so if I click proceed as PDF here, it just lets me do it because it's an accessible PDF. We're good to go. Don't need to convert it. So that's kind of a quick overview of the tool. Any questions about that tool there? Kind of how it works, or anything like that? You can drop in the chat or raise your hand.
Guys, I'm so excited about this tool. The first time Luke demoed this, I couldn't lift my jaw up. It was just dropped to my keyboard. So it's amazing. I'm really excited for this. Any questions about anything Luke shared today? Thank you so much, Luke.
Absolutely. I see a question in the chat about using the tool before running PAC. I apologize. I'm not familiar with the accessibility world quite as much as I should be. Can someone fill me on what PAC is?
You had me fooled, Luke. PAC is like an accessibility PDF checker tool that a lot of people use kind of toward the end of remediation. So recommending using the tool before running PAC. Well, so Lindsay, the converter, the converting to HTML kind of eliminates the need for PAC because you just don't, you're not, it's not going to be a PDF anymore. But for the second tool, I guess that's something our team needs to think about, Lindsay, because if this tool does, Luke, does the tool do conversion? Does it try to fix the PDF?
Yes, that's a great question.
Okay.
It doesn't do any fixing, and I think the question was in reference to the second tool.
Right.
So I will say that at this point in time, I can't say that it's a comprehensive replacement. Our goal is to get it to the point where it's running all of the same checks as PAC. I'm not going to promise that it will, but our goal is to get it basically doing the same thing as PAC plus all of the AI checks that you saw. So I would not say that this is like a tool before running PAC. The goal of
Right.
this is, hey, I just got a PDF. Let me just throw it up to the website and
Right,
just keep
right.
on about my day. The goal is to add an extra step there. If you're kind of in the process of remediating, verifying, a tool like PAC is going to be much more useful there. This is not intended for like uploading 5 times. But instead, this is to be used for when you're publishing a document to the website. It's supposed to be a checker for that. And in answer to the second question, this tool is built into publishing on the website. It's not an independent tool and is not supposed to be used to replace a tool like PAC. You can still
Right.
use that when you're remediating the PDF. The goal of this is kind of just to grab any issues as you're uploading the document, as kind of that last step verify, if you will. I would, especially at this point, but even in the future, still encourage tools like PAC or Adobe Acrobat, Accessibility Checker, things like that are still going to be important in the remediation process. This is kind of after, this is the ideal target for this would be a web manager who's just like got in a PDF, publishing it to the website, kind of let accessibility slip their mind that day, uploads it, doesn't think about it, and then it's like, hey, you might want to check these couple of things before you publish it, just to kind of help with that going forward. Or if you don't want to, just convert it into HTML. To kind of
Yep,
add that
there you go.
convenience factor there. But hopefully we'll get it to the point where it can do most of the same programmatic checks as PAC and Access Acrobat and things like that.
Luke, Molly's asking if that second thing you demoed can be used outside of Digital Commons. I think the answer is no.
The answer is no at this time. If we see immense interest in that, maybe we could think about that. But at this time, that's not something that we're offering. It's built into Digital Commons.
Okay.
And then Tripp's question, if again, it'd be based on scale. So Digital Commons, just because those are ones hosted on DIT's infrastructure, are our first priority for PDF to HTML conversion. Right now it's manual processing for us. The good news is that it's not very much processing. We just ask for like a CSV or Excel file of a list of all of the URLs of your PDFs, and then we can return the converted files. Right now we don't have a tool developed for people not on Digital Commons. So again, if there was huge scale of that or something in the future, we might reconsider. But at this time, we only offer manual processing for those not on Digital Commons, and Digital Commons websites will be prioritized.
Well,
Thank
awesome. Luke, oh, is there another question for Luke? Luke, thank you so much. North Carolina is so grateful to have you working for our state. I feel like you're a national treasure and we got you. So thank you so much. Okay, and last from Boone before we get into GAAD day discussion for the last 10 minutes. Does it work for bulk upload documents, Luke?
Yeah, great question. Currently, the converter, if that's what you're referring to, runs on all prior documents. And in terms of the checker, right now we just do it on a single document upload basis, but it is something that we're looking into to expand that functionality out into bulk document uploads. Still trying to work through the UI UX for that, just because that would take a little bit of development there. We wanted to go ahead and push out what we have right now, and then we'll be working on bulk uploading capabilities as well.
Okay, thanks. So I guess with our last 10 minutes here, let's talk about, was there anything from Global Accessibility Awareness Day that you learned that you wanted to share with the group? Feel free to come off mute, talk about it. If you have links to some presentation you watched, share that in the chat. We can try to pass that around. Elena, if you're on, did you want to talk a little bit about the Nickel Giza event? that you attended on Global Accessibility Awareness Day?
Yes, I really like the question you posted on the COP chat about what people did on this particular day to enhance their knowledge, to support the accessibility needs. And at that time, I was attending Nickel GISA, its local governments, technology directors meetings in Wilmington, where a lot of people talked about accessibility as well. I need to shout out to Nicole Shoemaker here for pulling this event around accessibility topic during this conference, and really bringing people together and sharing resources, pointing to what DIT have created for these years, giving shout outs to the digital accessibility team at DIT and Amy for leading this effort. It's interesting that local governments are actually actively working on remediating PDFs, on improving their websites' accessibility scores, because people use different vendors, and there is a variety of vendors who support them, variety of tools they're using to scan their websites. Some don't know even about these opportunities to use tools to scan and learn. So it was a good conversation about DABBot available for local governments currently. There are several local governments that have been exploring DABBot, and they had interesting remarks. One of them was actually very alarming because somebody stood up and said that they scanned their site through DABBot, and the results there are very promising because DABBot provides accessibility score for your site. It does not consider your PDFs. But then they used a different tool that considered PDF scores as well. So their accessibility score for the different scanning tool was much lower. So there was a good conversation about it as well. I really encourage local governments to reach out to us and start conversation about opportunities to onboard on digital commons. We are piloting this program, and it might be a good tool for you. I know there are a variety of contracts and vendors that support local governments, so please reach out to me or Liz Vines, and we will start conversation. We will try to understand how to help you. But overall, the interest, because local governments are much closer to their constituencies than we at the state level, they really look into the accessibility needs, and often they get much more feedback from their locals about the issues. So I feel this is something that the benefit of digital commons as one code base is that the more sites we get on our platform, the more customers we have, the more eyes are looking at the issues. And just this morning we had sprint planning meeting, and majority of our bugs found on the platform actually comes from our customers who have variety of use cases that flag some items for us. So that pretty much my feedback from the conference.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you. Anybody else want to share anything interesting they unpacked from GAAD Day? I'll share something that I learned. So I attended the IAAF, the Interagency Accessibility Forum. That first A is tricky because it's interagency. Anyway, that's a federal annual meeting where federal agencies get together and talk about accessibility stuff for a day and a half. And I found I picked up some really interesting stuff. One presenter was leading the accessibility team at NASA, and they talked about how digital accessibility is a catalyst for innovation, which is so true. And the example that they gave was NASA kind of was exploring some kind of space technology, and then ended up creating cochlear implants, which Bethany probably knows all about. So cochlear implants is sort of like, she could probably explain it much better than me, but some sort of implant in your connected to your nerve that helps people who have hearing issues. And it was like a huge discovery and a huge innovation that, allowed it for a lot of people to be able to hear significantly better. And again, it wasn't like they didn't go out to say, let's solve this hearing problem. They said, let's do something to launch a spaceship, and somehow discovered that technology. So I think that's really cool. That was neat. The other thing that I picked up on was about accessibility conformance reports and VPATs. If you know what those are, it's like a sort of like a questionnaire that if someone's trying to deliver a product, they fill out this template called a VPAT, and it describes the accessibility of their product. They kind of run through the WCAG, like a WCAG checklist, and say, does it support, does it fail to meet these guidelines? Does it support these guidelines? And then that becomes an accessibility conformance report in ACR. And so, they were stressing, if you're going to make a product, providing ACR, because the people who don't are less competitive. So I thought that was really neat. I thought it was really neat to say, hey, giving an ACR with your product that you're trying to sell to the government makes you competitive. And I thought that was really cool. Because, for someone who's trying to buy products on behalf of the government, if one product has an ACR and one doesn't, well, guess what happens in your mind as someone procuring something? You say, well, these people at least have an ACR, whether it's bad, like whether it says there's issues or not, at least they have one. So accessibility is on their mind. And so that might make you lean toward that product. So I thought that was really interesting. Any last thoughts as we wrap up here? Okay. Well, have a great day. Hope we continue to get rain. Take care, North Carolina. Bye, guys.